Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Cures on Campus virtual lecture series. My name is Bethany Yiser, and I'm president of the CURESZ Foundation, and I'm really happy you all can join us. So today our guest of honor is Mona McCalley-Whitters, PhD. She is a lifelong Iowan resident. As an experienced psychologist with a 30-year track record in psychiatric research, community activism, and healthcare provider, her lifelong mission is to raise mental health awareness, education, and support. She's a leader with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Lynn County, and various state and local committees. She continues strategic planning and collaboration to grow the mental health movement. In her free time, she's married to a psychiatrist and relishes spending time with her family and three grandchildren, especially in traveling to Florida during winter. So welcome, Dr. McCalley-Whitters. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Bethany. I'm honored to be here. We're going to have a small group tonight, but Bethany is recording this, so hopefully we'll be able to reach out to more people about this very important topic. So can everybody hear me okay? Thumbs up. Do you guys know how to use the React box? Because if you want to send me like a thumbs up or if you have a question or you really agree with something, please let me know. I thank you. Thank you, Julia. That way, we can kind of keep us involved, and I may be calling out and asking you questions too or comments. So we're going to cover material, some statistics, and talk about the impact and maybe ways that you can make a difference in terms of mental health for yourself as well as on your campus today. So we'll just kind of get going here. Bethany told you a little bit about me. I'm both a clinician and a researcher. So I started my career as a psychiatric research nurse many, many years ago. And as part of my research, we were looking at brain function in persons with mental illness. And at that time, it was just sort of, how can we say, a growing field. There was some controversy about schizophrenia as a brain disorder, but it subsequently, a huge body of literature and research, as you know, has substantiated that. And so I'm proud to have been part of that research. And I did many, many publications with Dr. Nasrallah. So he was an important mentor in my life. But I've also done some other things on the practitioner side. So I've worked inpatient, outpatient, and most recently, I've been the executive director for NAMI Lynn County. So how many of you know about NAMI? Can you give me a thumbs up? Have you heard of it? Do you know what it stands for? Julia, you're spot on. Leo, okay. Does someone want to tell me what NAMI is? What the acronym, do you know? You have to unmute. Julia, do you know?
It's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, I think.
Spot on. That is so good. As a practitioner, I sent some of my patients to the group, but I never imagined at some point that I myself would be the executive director, and I kind of fell into the job. The reason I'm kind of mentioning this to you is there are so many careers out there, and you're experimenting and discovering about your career path and what you're passionate about. Working with NAMI really allowed me to discover a whole way to impact the community and to grow the mental health movement. So it was a super great experience. And as a volunteer and leader with NAMI, I have learned so much. And I would encourage you in your thoughts about careers or even volunteering, perhaps carve some time out for NAMI. This is one of my favorite slides. And you can see I'm a graduate from the University of Iowa, and I love the Hawkeye football team. I have a little, what do you want to say, bruised heart because Ohio State stomped the Hawkeyes last Saturday at Ohio State. But this is from probably about the 35-yard line of Kinnick Stadium. And the reason I really like this slide is in the background, you can see it says in tiny print, the Children's Hospital. So on that top floor, there are families and pediatric patients that are, in serious health problems that are inpatient. And at the end of the first quarter, we stop the game, and all the football players, the coaches, the fans, we all literally wave up to the patients, the little people and their families. And what that message says to me, it's not the football warriors on the field. The real warriors are the little people, the pediatric patients that are battling and fighting, life-threatening health conditions. So it's grown to be a widely recognized phenomena, and there's t-shirts, and I have friends from the University of Michigan that were in healthcare and pediatrics that want to come to Iowa City so they can be part of the wave. So things in the world can really catch on and make a difference. So today we're going to be talking a lot about mental health, and I don't know if you're aware, but this is Mental Illness Awareness Week, and it's from October 6th to October 12th. It happens annually, and this year, when Bethany and I were trying to figure out when I do the presentation, we decided to do it this date, and I said, yay, it's during Mental Illness Awareness Week. So during this week, there's initiatives and campaigns and kind of a spotlight on mental illness. There's also World Health Day that's coming up. And so this is one of my special weeks, and I have usually lots of activities going on with the media and different campaigns and presentations. Today, we're going to have a lot of dialogue and open dialogue about mental illness. What we're looking at is really making it normal and making it okay to talk about mental illness. When I grew up, you didn't even talk about cancer. It was kind of like you talked under your breath. And there's also been that stigma and stereotype about mental illness that you, in the past, you don't talk about it out loud. You don't tell people that you're depressed, but I think the pendulum is shifting, but we still need to do more about it. In fact, my daughter, she's in marketing and IT, and when she tells me, Mom, you don't talk about mental illness, talk about mental health. You'll get more funding and more interest. And I said, that's the problem. That's the stigma, and how can I say? I was shocked that my daughter, raised in a family with her dad a psychiatrist and her mom a psychologist, had that prejudice. I was like, oh no, we have so much work to do. So we really want to challenge our communities that it's okay to see a therapist. It's okay to talk to your friends about it. And most importantly, talk to your family members about mental illness. We'll look into suicide. That was something that's been, how can you say, an alarming trend on college campuses and with our youth. So it's something that we are addressing and trying to figure out how can we save lives of our teenagers and young adults. So hopefully most of you know about 988. We'll touch on that a little bit. Can you give me a thumbs up or some kind of a reaction. Do you guys know? You know about 988. Cool. Okay. And just helping have a stigma-free, stronger campus. Thank you. We'll also talk about some key mental health resources. It's not going to be exhaustive list, but they're going to be some of my favorite, and maybe there's some that you're familiar with or like. So, you know, they're always good to have and be familiar with. There's just so much good material on the internet that you can look at from these websites to help you or your friends or your family. So as I said, I was with NAMI, and Julia got it right, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They have they have statewide organizations in all the states. And then, like, I'm from Iowa, so I think we have 15 chapters across Iowa. I'm not sure on how many in Ohio, but I would suspect something pretty similar. And these are the things from our 501c, our mission to support individuals and families, to educate the community, and to help in promoting an advocacy regarding mental health and mental health initiatives. So they have really good family classes, support groups. Do you know anybody that's attended any of the NAMI support groups at all? Maybe not. Okay. Well, the cool thing is they're empirically based, and they have two trainers that have been trained. And so if you, whatever chapter you go to, whatever class that you take or group, they're going to be very similar in their content. And we really love to have interns. If you're interested in some opportunities, I'm sure there's a chapter close by the University of Cincinnati, and some of our interns would get college credit. I'd fill out information, and they used it for references for grad school too. So you never know what's out there in your backyard that could be helpful. So again, we really want to have a stronger, more resilient college campus, and translating that into your life as well as in your fellow classmates. And I don't know if you have younger siblings, but really setting an example and taking a leadership role. So does anybody have any comments? It's probably not rocket science to you. Peter, you're kind of smiling. Can you unmute? What are your thoughts about mental health in the colleges?
Yeah, I just think it's a time when everyone is going through lots of change and separated from their familiar support environment and so on. So it's hard enough if you're not kind of living with a mental illness, but if you are, then wow, that's one hell of an assault course you've got to try and manage. So yeah, I think it's a special time in the lives of lots of young people.
That's very powerful. Spot on. And thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else have any thoughts? And I see Chelsea. I don't see her picture on my screen, but she obviously had done a lot with NAMI. So Chelsea, do you want to have a comment about your experiences at NAMI before we get going? Can you unmute? Do you see her, Bethany?
I don't know if she's with us at the moment. So she's
Oh,
on a
she's on a
bus.
bus. Oh, okay.
We'll
All
keep
right.
going.
We'll let you off the hook, Chelsea. So these are some of the campaigns that I've done in the past. This is a forum. Pretty much every Mental Illness Awareness Week will have a community forum. And the reason I'm showing you this is kind of maybe planting a seed that there might be some things that the CURESZ club could do for speakers to come and present community-wide or on campus It could be the Mental Illness Awareness Week. You could do community partnerships. We know that you can make a stronger impact when you join together with your partners in legislation and policy and actually making a difference in your community. We did a lot with Make It Okay. In part, they have 99 Make It Okay chapters in the 99 counties in Iowa. So it was really, we were able to spread our message far and wide by this partnership. And of course, you always need money for your foundations and a lot of grant writing. Are any of you interested in grant writing at all? No? Yes? It's a little scary, but it's a good skill to have and to think about in terms of your resume and just things that you're passionate about. So this was in May. So thinking ahead, the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and there might be some things that you can do on your campus, even handing out brochures about the Cruise Club or, doing speeches during the month of May. People love to hear the voices from students talking to students. It's a powerful way to make an impact. In this case, we were working with our legislators and our city hall to let our community, and this is in the Lynn County area of Iowa, show us and to show the community how important this is. So we have some other slides. This is one we had a lot of our partners, pediatricians, representatives from both hospitals. And you can't tell, but in the back, it was packed with people for this proclamation for suicide prevention. So we really were spotlighting it. And it was also across the nation that other city halls were doing the same thing. So if you think about, you could do something like that on your campus and reach out to other campuses. I know they have these traveling backpacks that they put on display that represent the number of people that have had deaths by suicide in college campuses. And then they have resources and speakers. And do they have anything like that at the University of Cincinnati that you're aware of?
Yeah, I think we have some initiatives at the University of Cincinnati, but a lot more needs to be done. I would say that.
That's powerful. I agree. And that's part of the problem. We just need to keep that message out there and keep growing it. So so you did, Chelsea is so spot on. She's taken grant classes and she's done the backpack event at Syracuse. So it's a pretty powerful statement when you see those backpacks and you realize what it represents. So yeah. Lots of presentations. This one I'm especially proud of. I did it with Ben Nemtin, and he is a world-renowned speaker that talks about his depression. There were 4 of us, including Ben. We presented to over 1,000 people about Make It Okay, and he talked about his mental illness of depression and how he's used that to fundraise and to gain awareness and reach out in the community to make it okay. He was a great speaker. You guys have heard of the bucket list, right? And the buried life movement. You know what you want to do before you die when you're old and gray-haired like me. This is the guy that started that. What's on your bucket list? So I mean, if you ever want to have a speaker come, he is really well done, and college students relate to him. So make a note, Bethany. He's a good speaker. So we'll keep moving along here. Along with Mental Illness Awareness Week, we just did the Mass at St. Patrick's Catholic Church on this past Sunday, and we probably had, I'm not sure, someone counted the number of people in the church, but I think there was over 800 people that came, in part to show a welcoming community for people with mental illness in the faith and worship. And, you know, it really is giving hope that in recovery, spirituality and faith can help people in their journey, and it can be an important piece. So this was our 17th annual Mass that we've done. And then afterwards, of course, we had a speaker, that was Jackie Smith Dugan, who came and talked about crisis and crisis stabilization and kind of what's going on in our community. So it's if you're interested in having a similar event in your community, I'd be happy to kind of share our secrets and our recipe with you on how to do it and what's worked for us. So we know that in talking and sharing our lived experiences, that people begin to heal. Keeping all of this, their mental health, like secret and hidden, it takes a lot of energy. And by sharing their experiences and stories, and it resonates with other people and gives hope to them. So I have a picture on the screen of Bethany's book, because if I hold it up, it's kind of, I don't know, fuzzy. But Bethany, do you want to tell us a little bit about your book and what motivated you with Dr. Nasrallah to publish this?
Sure. Yeah, I would be happy to share. And thanks again, you guys, for joining us. I'm really glad you're able to come tonight. So when I published Mind Estranged in 2014 with my whole story of severe treatment-resistant schizophrenia and then finally recovery, occasionally people would say, you're the exception to the rule, or, well, if you got better, then maybe you never actually had schizophrenia, which is somewhat ridiculous because I was a very severe case. So through Awakenings, we published 28 stories of people who are thriving despite schizophrenia, you know, to illustrate that not all of them can be the exception to the rule. And if you're attending tonight, since we appreciate you so much, email me your address and I'd be happy to send you a free copy. But yeah. Yeah, Awakenings
Okay.
came out in February, and we're very proud of this book. It's actually, I will add, it's actually 3 parts. It starts out with a collection of essays I wrote. Then we have the 28 survivor stories, and then part 3 is resources, a lot of information on cutting edge, underutilized medications, such as one called clozapine, which I've taken for 16 years. A lot of general essays. We have some essays on the consequences of discontinuing your med, on suicide, other topics. So email me if you want a free copy and you joined us tonight.
Okay, well, I'll probably be seeing you at the APA at some point, and I need your signature on my book, you and Dr. Nasrallah. So I have a little collection of important books, and that's one of them. Of course, there's other books and stories there through NAMI. There's You Are Not Alone, and that's for persons, adults with mental illness and their caregiver stories. Tomorrow night, NAMI's having a podcast based on like version number 2, You Are Not Alone, for children and teenagers and their parents, because they are really struggling with access for care and treatment. And so they are putting kind of a focus on that right now. And I think it'll be a really powerful podcast. But I also wanted to say that you can buy the book on Amazon, but Bethany had her book, but she so graciously offered a free copy. So I jump on it. Thank you, Bethany. And yeah. So this is a little more, we get down in the weeds here, looking at mental illness, and you probably know a lot about it because you've had some really good speakers come in. I myself just kind of want to make sure we're all on the same page, and it's the 1 in 5 number of persons that are going to have a mental illness in the next year. And that is shocking to me, because if you look around the room and you do a head count, and let's say there's 100 people in your class, that means 20 people in that class are going to be dealing with a mental health challenge. So a lot of these statistics are from Iowa. And of course, as you know, they're pretty representative across the nation. And I mean, we all went through COVID and we know what a challenge that was, and it's reflected in the negative impact on mental health. So how about you guys? What happened with you and COVID and and your family? How did you navigate the challenges that were going on in the world? You must have been what, 18 to excuse me, Peter, I'll say 30.
People are willing to, are invited to just speak up. I remember I've been very happily living alone for several years, and I went back to my parents' home for a few days, which turned into a few months. That was not expected, but was grateful that I had them as my support.
Okay, so that helped you cope with the challenges that were going on. Um, my phone was ringing off the hook at NAMI. I had so many people calling me. They felt so depressed or anxious or worried, and they just didn't know about the future of the world. So I know that anxiety and depression increased, and it was kind of a scary time. So I don't know, what your experiences were, but that's kind of what I was seeing. And some of the statistics are showing, that people were struggling when you weren't connected, when you weren't together in the world, and you were in essence isolated at home. But in Bethany's case, she had a good support system to help her. In terms of serious mental illness, it's 1 out of 20 adults experience a serious mental illness. And we know that the treatments have gotten better and therapy. And so, there is hope, but we still have a lot more work to do. And in particular, I guess for me, I struggle with the people that aren't getting help and trying to figure out what we can do to make it better for access and cost and affordability. 1/3 of the people in Iowa didn't receive treatment in part because of the cost. And, that's inexcusable. I mean, we cannot have people not getting the mental health care that they need because they can't afford it, whether they don't have insurance or they can't make the copay. We, really, really need to do a better job in that regard. So some more things going on here. We're looking at high school students, and if you have depression and you're a high school student and you're struggling and you're not fitting in school, unfortunately, you're 2 times more than likely to drop out. And that results in a whole cascade of events. It makes it more difficult to go back to school. It makes it more difficult to graduate. And it also maybe, sends you down a path with some crime or truancy, and then you get involved in the legal system. And so it's something that we really want to work on in our younger people and keeping them healthy and mentally healthy and engaged in school. I know that with COVID, there were a lot of students that didn't make it to class and didn't make it virtually to class and have kind of fallen by the wayside. Did you see any of that in your communities were you in high school, and how was it for you to go to school virtually?
I was a senior or junior in college when COVID hit, so I didn't feel it. Felt luckier that I was in smaller classes, so was able to still connect with professors and was able to conduct research remotely. But talking with some underclassmen at my university definitely felt like it was really difficult for them, especially in larger lectures, to still be able to engage with the content and to engage with the learning process.
Yeah. Well, it's such a different world now that everything virtual and it seems a little more natural. Thank you for sharing that, Julia. And it seemed like you were resilient and, were able to stay engaged and do the things that you needed to do. You don't feel like it delayed your graduation from graduate school or anything?
No, luckily did not. Currently in a graduate program and had a few years beforehand, so was able to start graduate school with all in-person learning, which was nice. It did, for my research, it was difficult because you couldn't do really any new research
Mhm, mhm.
on this, but luckily was still able to conduct research over Zoom, or got to talk to people who are in an inpatient setting about their experiences with schizophrenia and content of their hallucinations and how that changed in COVID. So luckily had a really good support system around that still allowed for and adapted to virtual learning. But definitely the pandemic had such a big impact, obviously, on all
Mm.
aspects of everything.
Well, kudos to you. It sounds like you made the best and have done really well with that. And I applaud you for being a researcher, especially during a very challenging time. So, congratulations on that. And good luck. It sounds like you're well on your journey and maybe even your dissertation. That's a big one. So, um, what we're seeing in youth is an urgent mental health crisis. And again, some of this you may already know that suicide is the second leading cause of death in people 10 to 14. And most sadly, even in younger children, 6 years of age, 1 out of 6 experience a mental health disorder. And so we're really trying to figure out what's going on here and how can we better serve our youth. I tried to get statistics that might be relevant for Ohio, and this was from NAMI, Ohio, that 32%, 1/3 of Ohio high school students are reporting depression. If you go through high school and you're depressed, you're going to have like these dark sunglasses on and you're not going to feel good about yourself. And, it's going to change your whole experiences in high school. So, again, something's going on and we really need to address it and do a better job. Alarming the increase in youth suicide rates. So, I mean, we are trying to do it better, but we still have a long ways to go. I'm probably preaching to the choir here. Most of you would agree with that mental illness is a brain disorder and a neurobiological condition. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide. The thing is that 50% of all mental illnesses begin at a young age, and by age 24, 75% are having symptoms of serious mental illness. So I put in a plug for Bethany's book. This is one by Dr. Nasrallah and Fritz Hen. And as I said, Henry was my mentor and we collaborated on a lot of research. So in terms of Dr. Nasrallah's book, I'm proud to say, and I guess it's not, I'm gonna see if I can get my camera right. It's not going to show up well, but that's my brain on the book cover. So that's my brain as a 24, 25-year-old. I hope we don't have any neurologists here. I think it's a normal brain. But what was going on as a psychiatric research nurse, I asked so many people to do research that when it came my turn, I agreed. They were looking for some normal controls. They just gotten a brand new CAT scan machine. I don't know if you know what those are, but I said, certainly you can use me and my brain and setting some parameters with their CAT scan machine. So that's me, that's my brain. And it's this book, I guess the main reason, I didn't want to brag about my brain, but the main reason is it was published in 1982. So that shows you how much the research has been building since the early days in the 80s. It's really, I mean, uh, okay, Peter, you go ahead and switch. It was just a message in the box. But, so we know so much more about schizophrenia and mental illness, and we have so many more medications and good therapies to help people in occupational therapy. So I'm very proud to have been involved in this research at an early stage. And it sounds like you, Julia, are doing some things, and I suspect that several others of you also are involved, probably Chelsea, and I don't know, Peter, do you do research? What's your area? I think you may have dropped off, so.
No, I'm still here on audio. Yes, I'm doing research into symptom monitoring. So kind of supporting patients and families so that they can monitor symptom changes more easily and kind of get ahead of changes rather than having to react to a crisis.
Wonderful. So kind of the early prevention and identification of what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. So combination of, changes in speech and sleep and even activity and so on that are recognized as being the beginning of a change in behavior more broadly.
Cool. Do you have a checklist or some sort of a rating scale?
Yeah, so it's kind of built off the rating scales that are used for the various symptom domains. So
Sure.
in schizophrenia from off the PANS rating scale, and then
Yep.
in bipolar disorder from YMRS and HAM-D and so on.
Well, I compliment you on that research. It sounds like it could fundamentally make a profound change early on and prevent, patients from dropping out of care, identifying them early on when maybe changes need to be needed, if I'm understanding kind of your philosophy in treating these patients.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, I think enabling people to get on with their life, when you're in a good period, kind of get on with your life and enjoy it, if you see what I mean, without the too much an unnecessary level of fear about what might be around the corner. So it's about enjoying the good times as well as helping through the tougher times.
So that's an interesting facet to what the work that you're doing. It's just not on negative symptoms, but other features that when they're doing well, that would show up on your rating scale.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of identifying the habits, and obviously medication is going to be a big part of that, but other habits that are supportive of staying in the zone where you're operating at your best.
No, that's super really important research. So thank you for sharing that. Does anybody have any questions for Peter on the work that he's doing?
Maybe we can have a further conversation on that at the end of the lecture, perhaps.
Okay, if you're available, Peter, I think that could be powerful and helpful to share it. I appreciate the information. There's a lot of good research going on and newer medications coming out on board. So
Absolutely.
again,
Yep.
Go ahead, Peter.
No. I was going to say absolutely. I will stay on at the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate your time and everyone's time today. So again, you're not alone as a college student or as an adult in dealing with mental health across the country. And looking at suicide and facts about suicide, for me, that what stands out on this material is 40% of people who die by suicide have a diagnosed mental health condition. But if you look at it closer, 90% of the people that have experienced suicide have a mental health condition. So we need to capture those people to prevent their tragedies, to help them early on when there are warning signs that, they're having maybe depression or they're feeling overwhelmed and thoughts about death or dying, to break this tragedy and get them the resources and the help that they need, because it's out there and there's really good things that can be done. If we are addressing issues with college students, we've got to talk about substance use. And, almost 1 out of 4 college students meet criteria for substance use disorder. And some of the frequently cited substances, obviously alcohol, marijuana, different types of amphetamines, cocaine, hallucinogens. I've heard more things about psilocybin and ecstasy with the rave parties. So it's really, how can we say this? At a very young age, as a young adult or college student, to be in essence poisoning your brain with substances. And we know in terms of brain development that brains of teenagers and young adults are still maturing, and to have a substance use disorder can really impact the brain in a negative way. So really being careful with that on the college campuses, and monitoring your use of alcohol. I unfortunately had a friend in college that periodically we'd have to take her to the emergency room because she would have alcohol intoxication to the point that she wasn't breathing. And finally we intervened and called her parents and had their parents come, and she had to go get treatment, and recovered, but dropped out of school for a while. So I don't know, have any of you or do you know any friends or family, peers on campus that might have some problems with substance use? Go ahead, Chelsea. Hey, good to see you in person.
Yeah, sorry. I was actually, I celebrated 2 years working for an organization that works with people with substance use disorders. I've been working there for 2 years, and this topic is near and dear to my heart. Bethany already knows, but I attempted suicide very seriously when I was in college. I jumped off a building, and I'm lucky to be alive. But I just was placed on clozapine 4 years ago, and I know that for me it definitely helped with the suicidality. I mean, I actually haven't been suicidal in at least 2 years, so it's just like huge for me. So I know that clozapine can definitely lower the suicidality. So
Thank you for sharing. And I appreciate your honesty about that. And obviously you battled some pretty tough things, and working in substance use, it's hard work and it's important work, but it sounds like you're taking good care of yourself and you're figuring out what programs work for you. So you must have gone through a pretty scary place in your life, and now you're using that and turning that around. So thank you for sharing. Does anybody else have any comments about this?
I just wanted to comment that Chelsea is featured in Awakenings. So if you want to read her whole very inspiring story, you definitely can. She's also online.
Thank you. I'll be reading about that then. I've peeked at different chapters in the book, but I will be doing a driving trip and it'll be perfect. So yeah. Does anybody want to comment on why there's such rampant substance abuse on college campuses? What do you think is going on?
As my name's Manahil, I'm a senior at UC, and I think as a college student, currently in today's day and age, I think the biggest driving factor has to be following a peer. I think it's become a very culturally component of college. It's somewhat of that part of that, unfortunately, that experience now of college. And I think a lot of students or just people in general sometimes fail to recognize that it doesn't have to be a part of the experience for them. I think it's a lot of just going off of what everyone else is doing, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you're referencing peer pressure and the excess drinking, preloading before parties, and really just this kind of liberal attitude towards use of alcohol. Yeah, it's the social reasons maybe are drivers of that, and culturally creating this climate that if you don't drink, you're weird, or you're not part of the cool crowd, maybe. I don't know. Does that sound right?
Yeah, and I think just that overall trend of a lot of college students feeling that depression and just in general mental health issues and that are left unaddressed for quite a while. So I think a lot of times they rely on substance use to get alleviated those symptoms.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, that whether it's marijuana or amphetamines, just trying to alter their perception because they're having difficulty coping or their mental health isn't good. So thank you for sharing that. Anybody else want to comment as to what's going on? Chelsea, go for it.
Sorry again. I wanted to say I don't have a substance use disorder, but I went to two party schools. I went to Syracuse University and University of Florida, known to be quote unquote party schools. And I think part of it has to do with you're young, you're a teenager going to college, and it's for most people it's their first experience being pretty much on their own, and there's that there's definitely the pressure to be in the cool group, the in crowd, all that stuff. So that's what all I want to say.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think, you're really hitting some important things there in the college culture, similar to what, we heard from other people in this chat. And it is something that I know universities and students are trying to work on, but it's difficult to change that culture, And of course, we're probably all aware of some of the negative consequences of having a substance use disorder, problems with cognition, attending class, even impacting mental health in a negative way, perhaps hospitalization, as I talked about with, being hospitalized for detox or over intoxication. There can be fighting in relationships and with your family members about, over drinking or drug use. And it can make it difficult in terms of matriculation from college, that people have to take a semester off and they don't go back. So it's just not a good, healthy thing in college, and how we can reset that culture to protect the brains of college students and, their lifelong journey of discovery without drugs and alcohol. So today, obviously, in looking at mental health and mental illness, really being aware of what's going on inside yourself in terms of your own symptomatology. And I think Peter was talking about looking at some rating scales and systems to identify early on when people are maybe having a downward trend in their mental health. As a psychologist, these are the things that I would call warning flags or signs to really pay attention to. And it's kind of like the elephant in the room with your roommate or in class, when you keep seeing this student that maybe isn't making it to class or looks really sad. Maybe, you know, you have a roommate that's like irritable, more irritable than normal, or it's having difficulty even focusing or concentrating in class, doesn't even want to go to activities. Maybe even one of the 10 warning signs is talking about they feel hopeless or worthless, or, you know, they might even have a plan to harm themselves. So these are the things that I'm listening for and looking for in people when I know, you know, they need help, and trying to figure out how to get them the help they need. So of course, if it's going on in you, you know, really listening to your body. And, you know, there may reach a time and a point where kind of like your own self-help things aren't working and you need to do something different. So we know that if somebody calls or sets up an appointment for mental health counseling, that even if they get put on a wait list, they already start feeling better. According to some of the research studies and the research controls, that they would even call it a normal, what do they call it? A placebo group in the waiting class, so they can study them and see what changes they have. But so just taking that action and shifting your attitude to get help, and, you know, obviously catching it early. And if you need to, whether talking to a friend or a professional, you know, really trying to get the help that you need early on is vital. So these are some of the things that we'll look at in terms of warnings of suicide in particular. People are saying, you know, I don't want to live anymore, or, you know, I feel so hopeless and helpless, and, you know, kind of more withdrawn, and even talking about, you know, it's just unbearable. I can't stand to be around anybody or be here now. Maybe overusing alcohol or drugs. Um, and even having warning signs, more warning signs, risky behavior, giving things away, having wild changes in sleep patterns, you know, oversleeping or undersleeping. These are the things kind of like red flags in particular with suicide. Some interventions to take to help yourself or to help a friend in need. It's really kind of the QPR: question, persuade, and refer. So really listening and questioning them, like, hey, you just don't seem like yourself in class, or you haven't been acting, you know, like you normally do. Um, you know, staying calm and listening to them and showing that you care can really make a big difference. So that's kind of the question part. The persuade part is really trying, you know, to use your presence, like, to help them feel more confident to agree to go and get help and treatment. And that, you know, hey, if you need, I'll go with you to talk to the counselor, or to call to get an appointment set up. And then, you know, if it's pretty serious and they have a plan and a place, and, you know, a way they are going to try to end their life, then by all means call for help and get them the help that they need. Remove that lethality of whatever it is. If it's pills or a gun, try to defuse the situation. And of course, always, you know, you can call 911, but now we have 988, call, text, or chat, and it really has saved lives. So this is what I was referencing. There's the question, persuade, refer, and you can even take a class on it. It might even be good to have someone come and speak to your group, so you can get more confidence and familiarity about suicide prevention and how to talk with people. There's also, this is a really good class, this mental health first aid. And obviously it's evidence-based early intervention classes that you can take, and they're short. They're just like maybe a couple of hours and not very expensive, and you can even get a student discount. Has anybody heard of these programs, taken them?
Yeah, I I took it back in freshman year of college. It was a great thing that our CAPS services provides. Those are
At Cincinnati?
yes, at UC Cincinnati.
Cool. That is super cool. So there's lots of programs out there, and there's the Safe Talk. So, you know, Bethany, maybe that's something that you want to piggyback with one of your lectures here to help people if there's an interest. You know, clearly it makes a difference. Do you feel better about your skills and training because of that class to talk to people?
Yes, for sure, 100%. And even in high school, they have Hope Squad and similar programs and groups of students that come together. So I think having students that already have that background and then kind
That's
of
great.
doing it again in college is a great way. Yeah.
Is it the the Green Bandana Project? Do you know about that?
No, I don't.
It's kind of where students that have, let's say, taken these types of classes put a green bandana on their backpack, and that way it kind of identifies them as someone, if someone's struggling, they can talk to a peer and they see that bandana and they know it's okay. So I know they have it in high schools, several where I'm from. So it's a good program also. So I thank you for sharing, and I applaud you for your efforts in that regard. That's awesome. I don't know what happened to my slide here. This is supposed to be the 988 slide. So, whoa. You know, again, has anybody here used 988 for a friend or family member? Have you had any interactions with calling for the crisis line and suicide prevention?
I actually haven't called it, but I've referred quite a few clients or peers to it.
Okay, yeah, it's 24/7. It can be for substance abuse, emotional crisis. You don't have to be suicidal. It's free, it's confidential, and it really, you know, can save lives. What it does, your call is supposed to be answered within 5 minutes. Was yours pretty fast? Do you know? Was it? Maybe not. Well, it's supposed to be within 5 minutes, and you're connected to a trained mental health counselor who can figure out how to help you to de-escalate the situation. And only in about 2% of the cases is someone a mobile crisis unit called, or a 911, a first responder. So 98% of the times they're able to work through the issues to get people connected to community resources. And that's the cool part, is that from 988, you will be connected hopefully to a mental health professional or call service in your area that knows your services. So I would encourage you, you know, to not be afraid to use it in your friends, or if you have someone that you know that's struggling. It's free and it's confidential, and they do a really good job. So this is from Ohio. I tried to get some things that were relevant. This is the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation. And again, it's they have a website, and what they did was they studied things from 2017 to 2022, and they were alarmed at the number of people that were young people that had death by suicide. So what they discovered, and this was that 80% were male, and that they had, I'm not sure you would call it a cluster, but they discovered in the counties of Ohio, there were 15 counties that had the highest rate of death by suicide. 9 of those counties were in an Appalachian area. And I didn't realize that Ohio, is that correct? That you have some counties, some very rural counties in Appalachia? Does that ring a bell?
That is true. We're in the tri-state area with Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio, but yeah,
Okay.
there's quite that population. Dr. Withers, do try to finish up in about 5 minutes.
All right, we'll keep going here. So how do you promote mental health in yourselves? What works for you or doesn't work?
Chelsea, are you with us? I think you're an expert on this.
Go, Chelsea. We're going to put you on the spot.
All right. So currently I volunteer for 11 organizations and I also work a part-time job. So I am actually always on the move. For myself, my secret is that I sleep 10 hours a night because of my medications. So
Okay.
when I'm up. I don't use coffee. I don't drink coffee.
Okay.
And I feel like if I did, it would affect me too much. So I just keep everything normal. I watch TV. My free time is kind of scheduled at this point. Like if I have 3 hours off, I like schedule it like, hey, I'll watch a movie for 2 hours or read a book. And currently I'm crocheting scarves for hurricane victims. So like I definitely, I take a lot of walks. I walk a lot.
Okay.
I walk
Okay.
everywhere I volunteer. I take like 4 or 5 walks a day around my block, just to get out and change of scenery, not always in my room or outside somewhere that
Beautiful.
yeah. So those are kind of a lot of my things. I read a lot. I just finished my 26th book of the year,
Wow.
which is, that's something I hold dear and near to my heart. So I have a lot of good stuff to calm myself down.
Wonderful. I mean, you hit every topic on here. Sleeping, exercising. I don't know if you like music. In your case, you love reading books. Does anybody do any of the mindfulness or the meditation apps on their phone? There's a really, really good one called Headspace. Or is anybody familiar or has anybody ever used that? It's a super cool. They have some free um, uh, through the App Store, downloading it. And Insight Timer is from Chelsea, is a good meditation app. So with Headspace, you can have 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, all the way up to 20-minute meditation. So it can be very quick and you can test it out with the free ones. So really setting aside, I think Chelsea mentioned she avoided caffeine, eating right and being connected with your friends and family. So we're going to kind of buzz through the last part. Clearly we're working on mental health stigma and busting it. And, really it's that shameful negative perception that our media puts out in the movies, and even some of it exists in colleges where people are joking about, I'm so bipolar, or, that is just not a good attitude towards mental health and mental illness. And these are some of the strategies to really bust that stigma on your campus. If you hear somebody saying something negative about mental illness, speak out and address it in the moment. Obviously the things that you're doing in the CURESZ Club, addressing mental illness and what it is and busting some of these negative stereotypes is so beneficial. These are, pretty common sense things, what to say or what not to say. It's kind of that old pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Obviously, we don't want to be talking about that in that way. It's more, thank you for sharing, and it sounds really tough, just the positive affirmations in talking with each other about mental illness. So, of course, we know that mental illness is a brain disorder, and we really want mental health equal to physical health. And if you think about how we describe someone with a mental illness versus how we describe someone who has cancer, we're really making progress, but we still have a lot more to go. So, we think of cancer patients as warriors. We wear our pink t-shirts, we have get well cards and all of that. What do we do if someone is hospitalized for mental illness, and how do we support them and make it equal to physical health? So, Again, treatment's effective, and, you know, really looking at legislation and mental health parity is important. So talking to your legislators and doing even your college professors and presidents, you know, so they can be a spokesperson for mental health on college campus. And again, you know, you guys are way ahead of the ball doing research and being involved in the CURESZ Club. Obviously, some of you have been involved in NAMI and in substance use recovery. You know, there's lots of things that you can do to be a mental health advocate and make your college campus stigma-free. So these are some of the mental health resources. You may be familiar with them. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has really good material. I reference NAMI online. There's SAMHSA, and of course the CURESZ Foundation. There's good stuff on the 988 website, and also on campus, the CAPS for counseling services that someone else mentioned. This is not an exhaustive list by any means, but these are some of the good ones. And I did want to show you how technology can help if you or a friend are having a crisis. So do we have a few more minutes here, Bethany? It'll be really quick with my phone.
Sure, that's fine. Go ahead, and then we'll stop the recording
Okay,
and have a
all
bit
right.
of a chat
Sure.
ourselves.
All right. So I'll see if I can get my technology to work here. Hey, Siri, I'm feeling depressed. Okay. Can you talk to me, Siri? Just a second. I know what I need to do. I have my hearing aids I have to turn off. Hang on. Let me do that. Okay. Okay, well, just turn these off. I know what. But you can use, I don't know if you have an app phone, but lots of times I can get this to work well. Probably you're better at your iPhones than I am, but I just wanted to show you this. So let me see if I can get it to work. Hey, Siri, I'm feeling depressed.
I'm sorry to hear that. Talking to someone might help. If you'd like, I can help you call a friend or family member, or you can find help online at NAMI.org.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Siri, I'm feeling suicidal.
It sounds like talking.
Oh, sorry. Just a minute. Let me.
Okay, I won't call. Let me know if there's something else you need.
Siri was going to call 988. Let me see if I can get that better. Hey, Siri, I'm feeling suicidal.
It sounds like talking with someone might help. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline offers free and confidential emotional support. Would you like me to call them for you?
No, don't call.
Okay, I won't call. Let me know if there's something else you need.
So I just think that's a really cool thing, how our phones and our technology can help us. And, you know, if you're alone and it's late at night and you're by yourself and you're spiraling downward, I mean, something as simple as your phone and the technology, you can reach out and really make a difference there. So I think we're almost at the end, the stigma-free culture and the stigma-free pledge. So really turning our campuses and our homes into stigma-free places. So I appreciate your time, and you've been a great group here. Thank you again. If you have any questions, we're going to we have a few more minutes here, and I know that Peter was possibly going to come back and share some things. So I'm just going to open it up and let Bethany kind of run the end of the show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Whitters. So goodbye, everyone. We'll stop the recording now.